Hello everybody, welcome to my channel, and hello to the Lazy Book Club. Thank you guys for joining me today. You know what day it is. This is going to be the beginning of me reading our May pick, which is A House with Good Bones. I am so excited. I am also absolutely terrified to start reading this one because I've seen so many mixed reviews about this. I've seen some people loving this. I've seen some people really hating this one, but I feel like it has the same mixed reviews that What Moves the Dead had, and I actually really liked What Moves the Dead. Well, gave it like a 3.75. But I really enjoyed the reading experience of that one, so I'm kind of like, hopefully that's the same with this one. But I'm excited. We're reading a very short book this month, which is cool because I think next month it's a little bit longer, so it's kind of nice to have a little bit of a reprieve because I literally just had to read prior to the Orange Tree this month, so I don't think my brain is equipped to read something like that. And I'm also going to be reading Empire of the Vampire in a week or two, so I am not equipped to read another massive book. So I am so happy we are doing more of a mysterious, weird horror, I think is what I've heard about it. Because if you don't know anything about T. Kingfisher, if this is your very first T. Kingfisher, I'm sorry. Because I would if you haven't read T. Kingfisher, I would always tell people to go ahead and read The Hollow Places. I feel like that is a really good place to start for T. Kingfisher. So if you haven't started this one yet, go read The Hollow Places first and then come back. But I don't know how weird this one gets, but T. Kingfisher does have a tendency in their horror books. I don't know about their fantasy books. I have Nettle and Bone and I plan to get Sword Heart. But at least in their horror books, they tend to get weird. So I am ready for this to get very strange, but I am so excited. I'm also kind of sad I didn't get the UK version of this. I'm pretty sure the UK version of this looks like super cool, but I mean, this is a really cool cover too. I don't have a lot of like green covers on my shelves, I feel like. So, all right, we're gonna get into this book. I really don't know anything about this book. All I know is what the back says, and it's a haunting Southern Gothic. I like Gothic stories. Ooh, it's blurbed by Charlaine Harris. I love Charlaine Harris. It's also blurbed by Paul Tremblay, which I have not read any of his things. It's blurbed by Travis Baldree, who wrote Legends and Lattes. It's very strange to have blurb this video. Okay, anyway, I'm putting it off. I'm putting it off because I'm really nervous. So this is my little intro. We are going to go read the book today. Okay, I am already obsessed with this book. I'm literally just 8 pages in and it's cracking me up. The talk about the throwing up vultures is literally so funny. Also, okay, a little backstory on my family and my husband's family, because it's going to be important, and I feel like it's going to be important for this book. My family is from everywhere. I'm a military brat. Currently they live in DC, so I'm very used to more northern living also, because it's Virginia, and then before that was New Jersey. So very much used to more northern style living. And my mom is from New England, and my dad lived in New Jersey for a really long time when he was a kid in Massachusetts. So yeah, so there's a lot of that northern side there. I didn't know anything that much about the South other than some Texas stuff, because I do have some family who lives in Texas. But my husband is from North Carolina, where I currently live. I live in North Carolina. This takes place in North Carolina. And my husband is from rural North Carolina. More rural than this. So this is kind of taking place. I'm kind of getting a good idea of where this is taking place. But where my husband lives, there are no such thing as suburbs. That is not a thing. He lives in the hills of North Carolina. And so when she talks about rural North Carolina, that's what I'm thinking of, but I need to like take it a step back. They talk about at the beginning how you'll just be like driving down these empty roads and then suddenly there'll be a rundown trailer, and then a brand new suburb. And it's so true. It is so true. I have seen that so many times when we're driving to, like, I have some friends who live in Raleigh. We'll drive from Charlotte to Raleigh, and sometimes we'll drive down, like, through the back areas, and you'll just be going through these places, and you're like, why is there a suburb, right? Like, what's happening? Why is this neighborhood just in the middle of nowhere? It's so strange. And half the time you have no signal. And especially up where my husband lives, My phone does not work where my husband lives. So this is cracking me up because it is just reminding me so much of like the stuff around here that I've seen. It is wild. So like I said, 8 pages in, we're already getting some very weird stuff happening, and I'm already loving it. I love how Team Kingfisher writes. I absolutely love their writing style. They crack me up so much. Like I said, the throwing up vultures is just so funny. But the hints we're already getting that something is funky is that the mother has lost a ton of weight. She's acting very cagey. I will say Southern moms do act a little cagey sometimes because it is true. They don't want anyone to feel left out. My husband's mom had a neighbor live at their house for like years because she had nowhere else to go and treated them like their family. So that definitely is a thing. But the caginess is throwing me off. And so I have a couple of like initial theories that I wanted to talk about. So first of all, painted the house eggshell white, which was not like what the mom wants to do. So, and then again, she's very skinny, lost a lot of weight, almost possession-esque kind of thing. And then she keeps saying it's like, we didn't want to be here. So it seems like it doesn't want the daughter here, but she won't say it outright. And she freaked out when they suggested selling the house, when she made a joke about if she's selling the house. So I'm very curious if the house, number one, a house with good bones. I feel like the house is going to be sentient. I feel like the house is going to be sentient and possibly either like possessing her, like there's some sort of spirit in there or something. I know like Southern families get very attached to their homes. Like my husband's family has lived in their house for forever. They don't ever plan to move. It's just not a thing that happens. Like people in Southern towns, it's very hard for them to get out. Like I think my husband's like the only person in his like high school class that moved away from the area. So I'm curious if it's going to be like a metaphor for being trapped in a place, and now she's coming back and she's seeing like the trap. I don't know. I'm so confused about how I already think about it because there's definitely something weird going on. Oh yeah, and very quickly, it seems like this book is going to be following, who's our main character? I don't even know if they said her name yet. We're going to be following our main character, Sam, who has a brother who told her that mom seems off, and it's going to be taking place in a quiet North Carolina street where the mother lives alone. And she is archaeologist who's also an entomologist. So she sorts through dig sites and stuff for dead bugs and date stuff based on the bugs, etc. So that's actually really cool. It's very niche, very, very niche job, but very cool. So definitely something's going on with the house, and I'm really enjoying it so far, even though I'm only 8 pages in. But this is a very short book, so I wanted to make sure to not get too like deep into it and then not have anything to say. So I wanted to jump in very quickly to give initial thoughts and see where we go from here. So I finished page 40 and I'm moving into day 3. There's not like too much to report at this point, but I wanted to like quickly give a little update. I feel like the bug thing is weird. So they just got to the point where she realized that there's like no bugs in the garden, but she can hear them somewhere else. So that's really weird. I don't know how that fits in, but I definitely think the grandmother and possibly the great-grandfather who looks like Rasputin are possessing the house or are still in the house. I was watching a book club discussion about The Last Tale of Flower Bride for Sid Bookworm's Patreon. I like something that she said about the house in that book because I feel like it's applying to this book, and it's, if a house is up long enough, it almost does have a personality of its own. So I am curious if the house is just like haunted by multiple ancestors. I don't know, but I definitely think the grandmother is still there. I really hope this isn't like the mom is imagining things kind of thing. I don't like that. This is definitely reading a bit... I don't love the main character right now. I think she's a little too over the top, but I think that's a writing problem. It's like she's trying too hard to be funny, and I don't like that. I don't think that ever comes across well, but it's kind of settling a little bit, and it does definitely feel more The Hollow Places compared to What Moves the Dead. So if you didn't like What Moves the Dead, you're probably more apt to like this one. But I hope the writing kind of chills out a little bit, just because I don't like the over the top trying to be funny kind of thing. Like it's you can be funny without trying as hard as it is. So, like, constantly bringing up the vomiting vultures, it's kind of getting old. Bringing up just, like, I don't know, her little quips and stuff, they're just not, like, actually funny. So, yeah, I hope that backs down and we kind of just get to know the character more, because it almost feels like a shield in front of the character. It just doesn't feel real. Like, the character doesn't feel real right now. So I'm just going back and forth between enjoying it and not enjoying it, and I think it's mostly just because nothing is really happening, but I feel like it's necessary, because I feel like the same thing happened in the Hollow Places, where not a lot happened at the very beginning. It was just kind of like slightly weird things happening, and I definitely feel that in here. Like, there's something just feels off. So I definitely feel like this book has the capacity to be a really, really good book. I just need it to start getting there. I need to just keep reading it, because I keep stopping and getting back. Me picking this book up is hard right now. So I just need to, like, focus and just read until I hit a point where I'm like, okay, yeah, now I don't want to put the book down. So I'm trying to take my time as well, because I feel like this is definitely a book that I could rush through, and I'm trying not to rush through it. I'm trying to, like, absorb the weirdness and try and figure out what's going on. So that's kind of my little update. I'm gonna read a little bit more, and we're going to see, and that's the other thing, plants. Something's weird with the plants, I think, because before each, like, day, it's giving us, like, a definition of different plant types. So something's weird with the plants. Did they, like, bury the grandmother in the flower bed or something? Oh, did they bury the great-grandfather in the flower bed? Okay, now I'm curious about that. And that's why there's no bugs, because they're, like, haunting the flower bed in the house. Okay, we're gonna keep going. I like that idea. We're gonna see what happens. It is Sunday morning. I was too busy reading other things at work. My energy is going to be a little down in this update. But I just finished chapter 6. It's just a really quick update. The first, like, really, really weird thing happened with the swarming ladybugs in her room, which was wild. Ladybugs are, like, the only bug that don't scare me, but I think even in that situation, I probably would have been screaming bloody murder and trying to light the house on fire. So that was disturbing. I don't have an explanation for the ladybugs. I don't understand the lack of bugs and then the sudden swarm of bugs. I still am in the camp that the grandmother or somebody was buried in the yard and the grandmother is haunting the house, which is why the mom is acting so weird. And, like, the vultures are swarming their house specifically, but I don't know. It's just so weird and eerie, but, like, I think I'm really liking it. I'm really, really interested to see where it's going, but I have about an hour left before I have to get ready for work and go do that and be an adult, which really sucks. So I'm gonna keep reading a little bit of this, but yeah, the problem is, like, I would like to read this at work on Kindle or something, because then I'd be done really quickly, but I can't do updates at work because I work at a hospital, so I can't film at a hospital. So this is why I pretty much just have to wait until I'm home to read it, even though this is what I want to finish, because it's a short book. So I'm stuck reading a little bit this morning, and then probably all day tomorrow. I don't know. I'm trying to take this slowly so that I don't, like, just finish it really, really fast. So, but I'm enjoying it for the most part. There are a few things that I'm a little bit iffy about. Mostly what I've brought up already, like the writing style's a little funky, trying a little too hard. So if that stops, which it did kind of stop in that last chapter, I should like it better. Okay, here's a really good example of something that was literally so funny. Just started chapter, I think I said 7, and where she meets Phil, the handyman, for the first time, and he just walks in and she threatens him, and then, like, just keeps saying stuff that pops off the top of her head, like, I would help you, but I'm not wearing any pants. I am actually dying. Or when she said, poor bastard, oh, that didn't come out right. That's so funny, but, like, and then she goes on this montage about her legs, but, like, that whole thing was really funny, felt natural, and then in parentheses she added in, so she said, unfortunately, this entirely logical chain of thought meant that from the knee down, I currently resembled a hobbit. And then it, like, that all would have been funny and the shark skin, etc. That would have been just so funny on its own. But then she had to like ruin it by saying, which I don't care about, damn it, down with the patriarchy. Women shouldn't have to shave their legs. It was just one more damn thing on top of all the other damn things. And I agree with that sentiment, but it ruins like the flow of the funny conversation. Like, get the kind of person Sam is. So like you don't need that little extra bit of like, yes, women's rights thing in there, because we get it already. Like, we know who she is, strong female lead. It's just one of those things where it feels like it's beating you over the head with her personal beliefs. And you just don't really need that in this situation. It was just funny on its own. And then it just feels like it goes over the top into too much. And that's the kind of issue I'm having with the writing right now, because it feels like that. It feels like you have a genuinely good, funny moment, or just a good moment, and then the parentheses, something extra is just added in there, and you just don't need it, because all the context clues, everything around it is very obvious. It's just, it feels like I'm being hit over the head over and over and over again by like stuff put in parentheses, her inner monologue. I don't need that. It's just so funny reading. I know I'm updating so much, but it's just so funny reading this, because like this person is clearly, like, T. Kingfisher is clearly from or has been around a bunch of Southern families, because I never was. It took me a long time to adjust to like my husband's family, but she's talking about how, hold on, this quote just cracks me up. Mom excused herself to chat with someone else, and Mrs. Goldberg, being a good hostess, embarked on the usual Southern call-in response about the weather. It's been so nice out. Oh yes, of course, it'll get hot later. Oh, I know. And the humidity, etc., until either winter comes or you die of old age. It's so true. I didn't know this was a thing, but like after meeting my husband's family and being with him for 10 plus years, oh my gosh, like, and it's like the Southern goodbye. If you've never heard of a Southern goodbye, it is the most excruciating thing I have ever experienced. Because in the North, like, my parents even will say bye once, give us a hug, and ship us out. My husband's family, you have to say goodbye 3 or 4 times, go back in the house as you're leaving, hug them like 7 times, talk about when you're gonna meet next, and then it's insane. It's insane. So I love that there's like I feel like this person actually knows the South, which is really interesting. And I feel like a lot of these things, people who've never like been in the South are not going to believe some of these things that she's saying, but it's so true. It's so true. Okay, it is Monday morning. The reason you guys are going to see me in bed a lot in this video is because I'm reading this in between going to work and stuff. So I'm finally done with my work weekend. I don't have to work until Wednesday. So I'll definitely be to finish the book before Wednesday. But today is a recovery day. So if you guys don't know and you haven't watched previous videos, I do have a very bad upper back. So most of the time, if I work, the next day is like a recovery day to make sure I don't pull my back. It's a whole mess and I hate it. So that's why most of these clips are going to be me in bed, because I have a heater and I'm able to relax and just heat my back and make sure it doesn't do anything stupid. And we have people coming over today, so I'm trying to rest it before they get here, and I have to kind of be up, walking around, lifting stuff, doing things. So I am currently in the middle of chapter 8, and I am so freaked out. I feel like this is my absolute worst nightmare. It's when whatever it is like combing her hair and she's asleep on the couch, and it's just absolutely horrifying. I love this section where it says, "But nobody ever tells you what to do when you don't die, when you're lying there and something is touching you and you're pretending to be asleep, because everybody knows that monsters can't get you as long as you're asleep and your heart pounds, but you keep not dying, and you stubbornly remain conscious, and it keeps happening." I mean, obviously it's the grandmother, like, right? Like, it's gotta be the grandmother's ghost or something that's like pretending to be her, and it's combing her hair and like touching her. It's like my worst nightmare is like waking up and something is touching you, but you're like pretending to be asleep still. That is absolutely horrifying. So yeah, really loving that chapter. I feel like it went from 0 to 100 very quickly. So I'm really enjoying this. Like, I feel like once the paranormal stuff started happening a little more, I'm definitely really enjoying it. So I'm excited to see where it's gonna go from here. I am on page 116. I just finished the chapter where she thinks she saw the hand in the garden, which is like super creepy. And I think this is the second time that the hand's been brought up, and it kind of just is like confirming, although it says it's like a child's hand. So like, I wonder, did the grandmother have another kid and buried the kid in the garden, and then the grandmother also got buried in the garden, or the grandmother's soul is just like trapped in the house? I don't know, but I am suspicious of what is going on, and I'm really enjoying trying to figure out why there's a hand in the garden. But this next chapter is like hitting home for me so hard. It's hitting home for me so hard because it's talking about how when you go to the doctors and you could be missing your leg and they would congratulate you for losing weight. It's so true. It is so true, and I definitely feel it because I have Hashimoto's. If you don't know what Hashimoto's is, it is an autoimmune thyroid condition. It's why I'm in bed a lot as well. I am always tired. It's why I always have bags under my eyes. And mine's underlying, so I don't currently have to treat it, but I get all the fun side effects, which includes an issue with a little bit of weight. So I am a little like chubbier than I would like and what doctors would like, but it's really hard for me to lose weight. I have to eat like under 1,000 calories and be exercising on top of that, and that's not healthy. So I try to exercise, eat healthy, and it's a pain. So I get it, because when I go to the doctors, the first thing is always, well, you're a little bit overweight, you could lose some weight. Like, for reference, because you guys don't see, like, all of me, I'm 5'1" and 155 pounds. So, I am overweight. I do carry my weight better. Like, I carry it in my hips, so it looks more proportional, but there's still extra weight there. So the first thing they always do is, well, you could lose weight to fix this problem. You could do this. And it was since I was a kid. They told my mom that I had a fat neck and didn't test me for anything, even though I was tired and having all these issues. They told my mom I just had a fat neck and I needed to lose weight. Yeah, it turned out my thyroid is like quadruple the size of normal people's. I have a huge goiter in my neck, but they just told me I had a fat neck. So I'm really feeling this section where she's like, I could go to the hospital without my leg and they'd congratulate me for losing the weight. And I'm like, yep, yes, they would. So I feel that. But I mean, there are a lot of issues that can be solved with losing weight, but moderately chubby people, if their back hurts, it might not be their weight. If this other thing, like, most of the time, it's not going to be weight related unless it's like a big hindrance. So, and even then, still might not be the weight. So I wish doctors just wouldn't jump to immediately saying it's a weight problem, because a lot of times it's not. It's just it's really painful reading that part because, ooh, that one hits home. That one hits home because my mom is 5'1" and like 130 pounds, and her doctor told her she needed to lose a little weight. What? What? Like, oh my gosh, I can't. I literally can't. Okay, I gotta stop talking about this because it's making me so mad. Like, no. I'm sorry, but no. So I ended up just finishing it yesterday, and I didn't do any update because I needed the rest of the night and into this morning to kind of think about my feelings about this book and what I wanted to rate it, because I'm confused about how I feel about this book. So first, let's get my rating over with. I did decide what I'm gonna rate it, and I'm going to give it 3 stars, which is not bad, but for me really disappointing because I really thought this was going to have the Hollow Places vibes, which it did, but there was something just like lacking compared to the Hollow Places, and I feel like I had to do a lot with the writing, and I also was not like the biggest fan of the twist. So let's get into what I liked and didn't like, and then we'll start talking about some of the spoilers, some of the questions, some of the things I might have actually changed in the book to have made it a better experience for me at least. So if you're only watching the end of this, then let's do a really quick recap. Also, I don't know why there's like so many of these like dust motes around. I was doing some editing for my other videos and I'm seeing these like dust motes everywhere, and I can see them now. It's like the ring light. I've never seen them before, and then the ring light is like making it super bad. And it's like the only place that I see them is in the library, which is attached to the rest of the house. So it's not like it's some like magnet for these dust motes. I don't know. Maybe it's all the books attracting dust, but I feel like this is one of the most used rooms in the house, so it should be the least dusty. So I don't know. But like I said, you just skipped forward and this is the only part you're gonna watch. We read A House of Good Bones and is following our main character Sam, who is a entomologist, archaeologist, and her dig site has just been put on hold because they found some human remains, so she decides to stay with her mom. And her mom currently lives in the grandmother's old house. The grandmother has passed away quite a few years ago, and the mom has kind of made it her own, and so Sam decides to go stay with her mom. Her and her brother have a pretty good relationship with the mom. The brother has contacted Sam, and so there's something a bit odd about mom, so Sam thought it was a good idea to go check on her. And something a bit odd is an understatement of the year. She's acting paranoid. She's lost a ton of weight. The house is completely reverted back to the way that the grandmother had it. And the grandmother and the mom are very, very different people. The grandmother is definitely old Southern style, and the mom is definitely more liberal, more in tune with what's actually going on compared to what the grandmother was like. So Sam kind of thinks this is like, mom needs help, but then she also starts noticing things herself and starts to wondering what's actually going on. So that's kind of like the basic synopsis. I feel like once I was finally able to read it, I give a better synopsis obviously after I read it. But let's talk quickly about things that I liked and didn't like, and then we'll get into some of the weird things that happen in the book. So I definitely really liked the atmosphere of this book. It definitely had that Southern Gothic vibe to it. I think that was really cool. I like the setting was almost like a isolated setting because it's in this like branch off suburb that is not really around anything else. And I really liked that. I felt like there was no one there to help them. So very, very kind of isolated setting, but with a few like added characters in there that were really fun. I liked the setting, but the setting is also in my dislikes. So I'll actually talk about the setting more in the dislike section. But the part of the setting that I liked is I liked that it was set in rural North Carolina because it's somewhere that I definitely have experience with now, having lived in Charlotte, which is city, but my husband is from incredibly rural areas of North Carolina. So I definitely have some more experience than I thought I would reading this book, but that also kind of leads to a dislike, which we'll get to in a second. I loved the mother-daughter relationship. I really love like how much Sam really loves her mom and knows like when something's weird. I feel like relationships and stories oftentimes are like you're following the parent and not the daughter, or you're following like sisters or brother-sister, brother-brother, etc. So I feel like it's rare that we get like a true just mother-daughter relationship and you can see like how much they really do care for each other, and I really, really liked that. I loved reading that in this book, and it wasn't like fraught with problems, etc. No, there was just a very simple, loving mother-daughter relationship. And of course, one of my favorite parts of this book were the vultures. I loved the addition of the vultures. I thought it was so fun. I definitely think they gave a little bit of this like twist away in the story. I definitely feel like they were kind of like a big spoiler in the story because it was very obvious kind of what was happening based on their behaviors. It was a little different than I thought, but still based on them, I feel like it's pretty obvious what was going on. I love the relationship / non-relationship with Phil. I like that there was like just a taste of it between Sam and Phil, and that Phil was actually just a really good handyman and helped the mom out just because he's a good person. And I loved that. And I loved that the focus of this book, because the book's only 243 pages, I love that the focus was not a relationship. It was just this little like tease of one that was just really fun. And the book ended off with like potentially this could be a relationship later, but I love that it wasn't the focus. I feel like too often I read books where the plot line is like really good and then it gets derailed by this random relationship because that's what authors feel like the audience needs. And I feel like a lot of times people who do read books strictly for relationships in them, but I feel like this is a really good example of a book that just doesn't need it. Like, there could have been no romantic interest at all and it still would have worked really well. So I like the little tease of something, but it didn't overwhelm or become like a thing in the book. And then I really, really liked the characters. I thought the characters were so well developed. I did think Sam was a little obnoxious at some points, and we'll get to that in dislikes, but overall, everyone felt so unique. Phil, Gail, the mom Edie, and Sam, they all felt like such unique different characters that even if they weren't like introduced, I could probably point out who was talking based on the voice that the character wrote for them. So I really appreciated that, and I liked them all. They were all really fun, especially the addition of the crazy guy across the street. That was really funny because there's always one of them. Like, when we moved in, we had one up the street. He was nuts. But he moved out, so I guess we lost our resident crazy guy. But it's just kind of like a guy you kind of put up with, but you're like, whatever, because he's looking out for the neighborhood, but probably not in like the best way. Like, you fear him and you're like, okay, he's gonna know stuff that's happening before I am. So I thought that was a really fun addition because I was like, yep, this is very accurate. Okay, things that I didn't love in this book, because I wouldn't say I like hated anything except for one thing. There was one thing that I didn't like, but otherwise I didn't hate anything. I just thought there were certain things that could have been tweaked to make the book better as a whole, and some of that was the writing. I had a big problem. I talked about it a little bit in one of the clips. I had a big problem with the forced humor. I don't like when it's like hitting you over the head. I didn't think the parentheses were necessary. A lot of the stuff that was said in parentheses was just like over the top. It doesn't become funny when it's like, here's what I'm trying to make funny. That's what it felt like. It felt like we were being presented this a little bit and it's like, okay, this is the funny part. This is what you're supposed to laugh at. I don't like that. And it often came off as very cheesy and it felt like I was reading. I don't like when I'm reading a book and it like kind of takes you out of the book and you feel like you're sitting there like reading about a character. Like, I feel like I want to be engrossed in the book, but every time I got to one of these parentheses, it just pulled me out and I was like, oh, this is such a caricature of a person. Didn't feel like a real person with all these parentheses. Like, I feel like no one talks to themselves like that in their head, so I didn't love that that's kind of what we were getting. It wasn't necessary. Sam was funny on her own. Her actions were funny. Like, her little interaction with Phil when she first meets him is so funny. It was so unnecessary to like, there was added in parentheses at the end of their conversation that just took it too far. So I feel like most of that could have been taken out and it would have been significantly better and I would have been much more engrossed in the actual book and Sam as a character, because it definitely hurt Sam as a character for me. The setting, okay. The setting is combined with my issue with the grammar. This is really my major problem and the only other problem I have with this book. And I think that okay, so let's talk about the setting first. I'm trying to think of how to talk about this because both of them are kind of like bigger qualms than I was thinking they were going to be in this book. But the setting, as we all know, because we all read it by now, grandmother turns out to be some like witch sorceress person, or I guess Gail says sorceress because Gail says she's a witch. Witches, I guess, I tend to be good in this kind of world. I don't know. But the grandmother turned out to be like a sorceress and she knew all about like the magic and the roses and that her grandfather was a sorcerer, that kind of stuff. And she kind of says like, it's not, you guys call it magic, but it's power and blood, etc. And I'm sitting there going, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And I think it's because I've been around people from these rural areas now so much that the idea that one of these little old ladies, God-fearing little old ladies who are super Christian, would dabble in magic, I don't buy it. I literally don't buy it, because the idea of even books having magic, like I know we don't talk about it, but Harry Potter. My husband was not allowed to read Harry Potter ever. Like, I'm pretty sure if he said anything about it now to his parents, they'd still be like, magic. So I don't buy it. Like, and a lot of these people up there, like, don't read any type of fantasy. They don't, it's the devil's work. It is the devil's work. So the fact that the grandmother acts so God-fearing and so Christian, doesn't like cursing, doesn't like any of that stuff, and I just don't buy it. I don't buy that she was on purpose creating this magic around the house. I don't buy that she would do that. So I think that was like my biggest qualm with that, is it felt all of a sudden like we were ripped out of the South and we were actually brought to like my grandparents who are from the outskirts, rural Massachusetts, outskirts of Boston, and literally a running joke in my family is that my grandmother was a witch. So she was a lovely lady though, like none of the other things going on, but she had a black cat, she had like a wart right here, and some of the stuff she would say. So it took me out of Southern America and popped me into like Northeast America, and it felt so disjointed suddenly, her being like magic, that I was like, no way, man. There's no way that anybody that I've come into contact with in rural North Carolina would even be remotely okay with even saying abracadabra. So I did not buy that. If she was more of like an outcast in the rural area, or like was the eccentric, like I would believe that. Like Gail is an eccentric in the South. She is somebody that, yeah, that grandmother would super dislike, but she would be the type that would turn out to be a crazy sorceress. So I would believe that, or that the grandmother did it accidentally, because it did say like the grandfather was like crazy and had sorcery, etc. It wouldn't surprise me if instead of it being an intentional thing, that she inherited powers from like her grandfather, and through her work and through her like kind of evil deeds, she created this magical thing and kind of locked herself in the house and now is haunting them. I would understand that. That to me makes sense. That to me is Southern Gothic vibes. But the fact that she knew about the magic and was doing it on purpose while still being like this Christian person, I don't buy it. I didn't buy it. Definitely have a question about what you guys thought about that, because that was a big issue for me. But if like you know better, if maybe there's different rural areas that I don't know about, but at least in like rural North Carolina that I've been to, that just would not happen. It wouldn't. So that's definitely one of my questions. Let me know what you guys think about that. The other thing, okay, I feel like this is gonna be a little bit controversial, but I think they played the grandmother storyline way too safely. I was really excited because I thought we were gonna get a really hard-hitting relationship story, because we have such a good relationship between Sam and the mom. I love it. But they have a complicated relationship with the grandmother. And I was like, ooh, this could be so good, because right now, especially in the United States, a lot of people in their 20s and 30s and younger have such a complicated relationship with their parents right now, because they love their parents, but a lot of their parents are kind of racist, they're bigots, they're anti pretty much everything that the younger generation seems to stand for. So I'm not saying either way, this is not going into politics of anything. I just really, really felt that this could have been much more impactful if the grandmother wasn't just fully evil. I really wish we had explored the dynamics of having a terrible, like your relative having a bad political view or something you definitely don't agree in, like having a racist grandmother, which a lot of us have or have had. Because I know myself, like my grandmother, wonderful woman, never thought anything of it. She's always been so kind to everybody, used to do charity work every weekend. I mean, angel, literally an angel, would cook for the whole street, would probably bring in somebody who was homeless. And then I find out she doesn't like Asian people. And I was like, what? That was something I found out like 20 years into life. And my mom's like, it probably has to do with the Korean War, your grandfather was in the Korean War, etc. So I was just like, oh my God. So then I all of a sudden have to grapple with this idea that this wonderful woman that I've always known my entire life, who loves me more than anything else, is also a racist. So I thought that's where we were going in this story. I thought we were going to get to the point where, because Sam saw everything black and white, she was like, grandmother's racist, she's a terrible person. So I was like, that's not exactly how a lot of America has to deal with their family. Like, yeah, you want to completely disown them because of this horrible thing that they believe in, but at the same time, there was all these other aspects that are great to them. It's such a complicated, horrible situation to be in, and that's what I thought we were going to talk about in this book. But instead, the grandmother was made just pretty much she sucked. Like, she wasn't kind, she wasn't good, she was racist, everything. It was easy to not like her. And I felt like that was such a cop-out for this kind of story. So I just felt like it was a cop-out. I felt like because this is set in a southern rural area, you could easily talk about these problems and create this thing where the parent, like the mom, still loved the grandmother because of all these wonderful things that she did, but she's also terrible at the same time. So I really wanted that to be explored because, again, a lot of people can relate to it. It's something a lot of people grapple with, and it just wasn't. It was, T. Kingfisher, I feel like, took the super, super easy way out and didn't want to talk about it. So I was really disappointed in that. I felt like that was such a missed opportunity, and that was probably my biggest disappointment in the book. Okay, moving on to some questions that I have for you guys. I really don't have that many. I feel like this book was very straightforward. First of all, do you think that Sam and Phil got together? I feel like that's out of purview of the book, but I feel like they probably didn't. I feel like because he's got his grandfather to take care of, and now Sam's not gonna come back to this area because the mom's moving. I feel like that kind of just like probably fizzled out after the book. I feel like that just happened. That was a fun little thing, and then we're gonna move on from that. And then like the underground children, I feel like that was not explained enough. What did you guys think about that twist with at the very end where like the house, where do you think they went? Like, because the house did not just go underground, like it went to some other weird dimension. Like what do you guys think exactly happened in that situation? Because I still don't know. It's like they definitely slipped through time or like a pocket universe and they got stuck somewhere and then somehow Gale got them out. I don't know. That whole section, I was a little like, this is weird. I liked the chase with the underground children. It was really weird and creepy, but it was just weird. I felt like it was very unexplained and not as thoroughly gone through as like the Hollow Places has like pocket dimension kind of thing going on. And that was explained, I feel like, super well so that you weren't super confused. You were kind of like, well, why is it here? But it was explained better. And this, it was just kind of like, we fell through a hole and now we're out of the hole. So I wish that was explained like a little bit more. So where do you think the house went when it went? I don't know how else to ask that question. And then what do you guys think about the underground children? Like, what did you like that addition to it? Because it was definitely kind of like it was hinted at with like the children's hand, which was really creepy, by the way. But suddenly there's like 100 of them chasing them. And then what did you feel about them potentially not all being dead at the end? Because I did not like that at the end. I did not like Gale hinting at the fact that these things were going to be chasing them the rest of their lives, because it very much gave me the movie It Follows vibes, which traumatized me. Don't like that. So I was not a fan of that part. Like I like books that kind of end like defeated the evil, etc. But it feels like it definitely left off on like, is there gonna be a second book and we're gonna have to worry about these underground children chasing them? But I feel like it definitely didn't lead, like it's not leading to a second book. I couldn't imagine what a second book would be about other than Phil visiting, I guess, or because grandmother's definitely gone, I think. Do you think, that's another one, do you think grandmother's like actually gone? Because there was a moment where she felt like her power and it felt like she was still talking to her, but was it just the echo of her power in the roses, or was grandma still alive and like messing with stuff? I'm definitely gonna miss the vultures, which is really sad. I really like the vultures, especially Hermes. If you didn't know, I always, especially for these book clubs, I try to read the author thing in the back, the acknowledgements, and it said that she got a lot of her information about Hermes and the vultures from, she had a friend that had an indoor vulture, and then she talked to a lot of entomologists and archaeologists to get all the facts right. So she said a lot of the stuff about the vultures is probably accurate. And I actually did look up when they said the vulture like loafing, I definitely looked that up and it's kind of adorable. And now I feel like I have such a better appreciation for vultures. I've always liked them, but I feel like now I'm like, I love them. So that's kind of what I got out of this book, is that I like vultures. If nothing else, I like vultures. So And then basic things, favorite character, least favorite character, favorite part of the book, what scene did you like the best? I really liked the scene where we met Hermes the first time, and then I really liked the photograph. I really, really, really liked when she found the photograph that had the hand in the background. That freaked me out. I just gave myself chills thinking about that. That freaked me out. So that's kind of all I've got to say about this one. There definitely wasn't as much to say about this one as the last one. This one definitely was more straightforward. So just let me know your general thoughts as you were reading, what kind of the vibes that you liked or didn't like, what you would have changed if you wanted to change anything, or if you just love the book. I mean, let me know anything about it. And that's all I got for you today. And I'm so grateful that you came to another book club. That is another book down for a book club. And I will be starting one for my enemies, one for my enemies by Olivia Blake is the June pick. And I'm very excited to pick it up. And I'll probably give myself more time to read that one because it is a Morley Gray fantasy longer book. So make sure you start that one a little bit earlier so that you're not gonna be like the day before this comes up or something and be like, oh crap. Because that's what I'm worried about. I'm like, I'm gonna wait for the last week of June and then be like, oh no, I gotta read the whole book. So I'm gonna try and start that one early. But anyway, thank you so much for joining. Absolutely loved it. And I hope you guys had a great time with the book. That's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe for more book club stuff and all the other content. Make sure you like the video and make sure that you leave a comment down below because this is the purpose of these. I want to talk to you guys about this book. So that's all I got for you and I'll see you guys in the next one.